Hello, hello, and welcome to the Daily Bread Bible Study. Again, looking at the rise of God's King here in 1 Samuel, looking specifically at chapters 13 through 14. This is for day 84 for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. So Saul is currently God's king for now. It will be short-lived, yet God will bless Israel even through dysfunction surrounding King Saul. So, picking it up in chapter 13, verse 1, Saul was blank years old when he began to reign, and he reigned blank and 2 years over Israel. The Bible is missing some words here. My Bible mentions that there is words omitted. The numbers are omitted in the Hebrew variant of it, and that also in the Septuagint version, which is the Greek Old Testament, that there is no verse to be found at all. So we come in to some discussion here about the Bible and the ways in which the manuscripts are compiled and added together. And so sometimes the manuscripts conflict. Sometimes there are parts that are written in parts of the manuscript that are not written in other manuscript versions. Sometimes the Greek and the Hebrew disagree. Though the majority of the Bible is coherent and kind of plays together with one another, there are some parts of the Bible and some verses that just don't mesh, and this is one of them. But fortunately for us, the details are not the main point of the story. In fact, it is about the story of King Saul and his dysfunction, his zealousness, and his rashness, which is going to come up here in the story to focus on. So we see that King Saul leads the forces against the Philistines, and the Philistines appear to be winning. So the people grow restless, and Paul feels their anxiety. Now the day comes for Saul to meet Samuel at Gilgal, as the prophet told him in chapter 10, verse 8. You shall go down to Gilgal ahead of me, then I will come down to you to present burnt offerings and offer sacrifices of well-being. 7 days you shall wait until I come to you and show you what you shall do. So King Saul goes to Gilgal on the seventh day, but grows impatient and disobeys by offering a sacrifice instead of Samuel, as it says in 1 Samuel 13, 8 through 9. He waited 7 days, the time appointed by Samuel, but Samuel did not come to Gilgal, and the people began to slip away from Saul. So Saul said, bring the burnt offering here to me, and the offerings of well-being. And he offered the burnt offering. Won't you know, as soon as this happens, as soon as he's done offering these sacrifices, Samuel shows up right as he finishes. Frustrated with the king's lack of obedience, Samuel states that God is not pleased. In chapter 13, verse 13, Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you. The Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom will not continue. The Lord has sought out a man after his heart, and the Lord has appointed him to be ruler over his people, because you have not kept what the Lord commanded you. Thus, after the incident at Gilgal, King Saul gathers the troops with the limited resources they have, no swords or spears. And even facing difficulties, Saul and his son Jonathan defeat the Philistines, because God is not ultimately removed from him. In 1 Samuel 14, we see a little bit more about how God favors people, especially Jonathan. Jonathan plays the hero again when he slips off to fight the Philistines at the garrison Michmash. In 14 verse 6, Jonathan said to the young man who carried his armor, "Come, let us go over to the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will act for us. For nothing can hinder the Lord from saving by many or by few." Jonathan discerns God's favor through a sign and kills 20 enemies, sending the place and the garrison into panic. Saul tries to clarify, observing the confusion from far away, tries to clarify what's going on, and then comes to learn that Jonathan was involved. Saul consults the priest with the Ark of the Covenant and discerns that it is their time to act. Allies pour into battle from various sources, and the Israelites are winning. Then King Saul, zealous for complete victory, lays an oath on his army, and it's 1 Samuel 14:24. "Cursed be anyone who eats food before it is evening, and I have been avenged of my enemies." His own son Jonathan, not aware of the oath, then finds a honeycomb, and his eyes brighten, as it says, as he eats the honey. After learning of his father's command, Jonathan rebukes his father. And Jonathan is not the only hungry one, as the famished army then starts eating uncooked meats after the battle is finished, and they fail to keep purity laws and do not even get the blood out, thus defiling themselves and bringing disgrace upon King Saul and the Israelite army. Because of their actions, Saul does something good. He actually erects the first altar to the Lord here. Now Saul wanted to complete the defeat of the Philistines. He inquired of God through burnt offering, but does not hear anything back from God. Sensing there may be a problem, King Saul consults Urim and Thummim, the divining tools that we discussed on day 30, focusing on Leviticus chapter 8. Remember, Urim was the unfolding, and Thummim was this truth, and the lot falls, and the Urim and Thummim are implicating Jonathan. Thus, Jonathan confesses to his act of unintentionally disobeying his father's oath, but yet his father still says, "I'm going to keep my oath and I'm going to kill you." It's here the people intercede for Jonathan. In 1 Samuel 14:45 it says, "Then the people said to Saul, 'Shall Jonathan die, who has accomplished this great victory in Israel? Far from it! As the Lord lives, not one hair of his head shall fall to the ground, for he has worked with God today.'" So the people ransomed Jonathan, and he did not die. Now, the rest of this section details the family around Saul and states that he had constant fighting and victories with the surrounding nations. And picking up next time, we will see some more of those fights and battles, and then slowly move to this David, who God is going to appoint as a new king. But that will come with time, so thank you for your patience and waiting for us to get there together.